A lot of demands on state tax dollars, and some demands may be more important than others. But we're going to see quite the battle at the Illinois State House for various sectors looking to get some kind of tax dollar appropriation. We've already heard from hotel groups saying they need help. We've heard from others saying, the restaurant industry, they need some more help. But what about those who help individuals with developmental disabilities? They've been calling for more funds for years. Well, how's that call been going? And are we any closer to possibly finding full funding? Joining us now on Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop, and Josh Evans is with the Illinois Association of Rehabilitation Facilities, and we've got just a handful of days left for the state legislature. Josh, what do you guys hope to get? Give us an overview here of where we're at right now and where we've come from, if anywhere at all, when it comes to getting full funding for helping those with disabilities. Good morning.
Hey, Greg, good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me. And what I will say is that, year over year, I think we make progress. We had a substantial investment in disability services by our champions in the General Assembly last year of around $109 million that went towards investing in a 2-year prepared rate study. But regrettably, it was below what was called for in that rate study. And so here we are back in the second year of this rate study, so to speak, for looking towards next fiscal year. And we're just trying to work with some of those champions and grow more champions so that we can try to secure full funding of that rate study so that persons with disabilities have the supports that they need to live in connected communities across Illinois.
So talk a bit about how those dollars would ultimately be used. And, well, I guess how dollars are used now, but how the increased funding to get to full funding will ultimately help.
Sure. So one of the things that's important to understand is, and I think especially in this March, National Down Syndrome Day was yesterday, and in a March that matters where it's a DD Awareness Month, is I think a lot of folks don't understand is that in order for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, to live, recreate, and work in the community, they often need support staff. And support staff are the most important staff that we have in disability services, and they're often called direct support professionals. And one of the things that we have a moral, ethical, and legal obligation here in the state of Illinois to do is to ensure that they're making a living wage. And that is where most dollars when they're invested in disability services go. They go to the support staff that work at provider agencies. And so our effort is geared towards trying to ensure that state funding that pays providers for those services is at least 150% of whatever the local, statewide, or regional minimum wage is. And in order to get wages up to a living wage, we need to make sure that there are payment rates that support that from the state of Illinois.
I think one thing that everybody can agree on is government's there to help those who need the most help and likely can't help themselves. And individuals with disabilities are just that group that needs everybody's help. So we'll watch to see what ultimately happens here. But Josh, there's a lot of competing interests when it comes to state tax dollars. We've already talked a bit about this morning of the $4.5 billion unemployment debt and the possibility of using some leftover COVID-19 federal tax funds to pay that down. But the hospital, or the hotel groups are looking for some of that. You've got even restaurant groups that are looking for more tax dollars. Are you looking to capture some of that federal leftover funds, or are you looking just for a dedicated annual regular payment? Because those federal funds are temporary, right? So where are you looking to capture these dollars from to get to full funding for organizations that help those with disabilities?
So thanks for that. It's a great question. And a couple of responses to that. COVID has taken its toll on so many different economic sectors in our entire globe. And we know that, we're all impacted in different ways. In disability services, it's continued to exacerbate and make more difficult a workforce crisis, make it harder to hire and retain people. One of the things that we do know is that, Illinois is under a federal court-ordered consent decree, which means the state is required to do certain things by the courts. And we've been out of compliance with that since 2018. And what is going to be contingent on getting back into compliance is adequately funding rates, according to this Guidehouse rate study as it was designed and envisioned, not on a longer time frame. So when we talk about resources, I think how we look at things is, we look at federal funds, we look at state funds, Disability services is a mix of general revenue funds and Medicaid services. These are ongoing operational costs. So whatever we spend this year, we have to annualize in the next year, et cetera. So I think we look at general revenue funds and Medicaid funds to pay for these services. If there are ways that ARPA dollars can be tapped so that we can invest in this service array, we're happy to have those discussions. We're happy to talk with lawmakers about that. But by and large, we need to make it clear that these are ongoing expenses that don't just go away. And so, as we invest now, we need to be prepared to invest in the future. And again, we're out of compliance. We need to get back into compliance. We have a legal, moral, and ethical obligation to fully fund disability services. And finally, with the state's finances in the best shape they've been in decades, one of the common arguments against fully investing in our service array is we don't have the resources, but now we do. So let's work together. Let's come up with a path towards full funding. And we look forward to seeing what that looks like and how we can grow services in the state of Illinois.
We're talking with Josh Evans with the Illinois Association of Rehabilitation Facilities here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. Josh, another issue that came up a couple of weeks ago was some at-home workers, I believe, some home health care workers. Maybe you have a little bit more detail than I have right now, but they were asking for increased pay, and they had the AFSCME Council 31 there with them, and I think that they were looking to tap some of the extra federal resources. How does that impact your organization when it comes to getting the best, most efficient, and highest quality workers to work in these what can be, I imagine, stressful situations?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. And, one of the things that I think we're really proud of in the provider community is our ability to work with organized labor and other groups towards common goals. This association, coalition efforts, and I believe AFSCME all agree that we should fully fund this rate study, that we need to fully invest in disability services. But we just had some differences, I think, on the execution. We know that overall, I'd say that collective bargaining represents maybe 10 to 12% of the entire DSP workforce in the state of Illinois. And they're contending that there are situations where the General Assembly invests dollars that are not invested in the workforce. And I think we have a fundamental disagreement with them on that. They've not shown the data that shows that that's the case. And they're pushing legislation to that end. And I think where we come at that is it's our understanding that all providers are following the clear intent of the law when it comes to investing in our workforce. And there are matters that complicate that. It's the timing of when funds go out to providers. You have to have money to pay people. But also, it's important to understand that when you have collective bargaining units, you often have to bargain on wages and benefits. And there are aspects of these wage increases that do come under bargaining when you're in that situation. So, I think that these are differences that are time restricted that will be worked out. But I think the important thing to take away is that, both labor, providers, all groups, we agree at the 30,000 foot level, and that's important. Let's fully fund this rate study. Let's fully fund disability services. And these are things that we can definitely work out.
Well, March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and greatly appreciate you, Josh Evans, with the Illinois Association of Rehabilitation Facilities, to give us a better understanding of some of the demands that there are and the importance of fully funding services for those with disabilities. We'll watch what happens in the next handful of days here at the Illinois State House. Greatly appreciate it, and I imagine we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having us.
It is the WMAY Springfield Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. Let's take a look at Springfield's dependable 5-day forecast with a chance of showers